First story, one person was shot dead in a clash between a group of military men and some youth in Nyinahini in the Ashanti region. 3 others sustained injuries. New Joy News sources reveal the soldiers were traveling through the town when they spotted some persons in camouflage military uniforms on their way to a burial. Nana Yaujima reports.
The identity of the deceased is given as Akwesilala, aka Kushivi, 37 years. The injured include Kofi Ejapon, 44, Alfred Kwate, 24, and Kofi Osu, aka Juve, 36. According to an eyewitness, Reverend Francis Nyameche, the officers confronted the youth for use of camouflage attire, resulting in a clash. The military allegedly shot into the crowd, resulting in the death and injuries recorded.
The military asked him to take off the camouflage. He obliged by taking off his shirt. They insisted he takes off the trousers too. The deceased told them he couldn't go naked in public. So it resulted in a scuffle. The military started shooting in the air after the youth pelted them with stones. This resulted in the killing of Kushivi and injury of others.
The community has since been thrown into a state of fear. The police have commenced investigations.
Well, we'll come back to the story and speak to the Defense and Interior Committee on their reactions to this. But let's move to Tamale now, where the minority in Parliament is asking doctors at Tamale Teaching Hospital to reconsider their industrial action and return to work to save lives. The doctors earlier this week suspended OPD and emergency services following the dismissal of the Tamale Teaching Hospital CEO by Health Minister Kwabena Mita Akando. Now, they've released a statement and they are calling for the doctor to be reinstated. Well, let's see what's in that statement. And it says the Minority Caucus on Health has taken due notice of the press release issued by the Doctors Association of Tamale Teaching Hospital, outlining the difficult decision to suspend emergency and outpatient services at the facility. Do not underestimate the gravity of such a resolution, and they fully recognize that it stems from a deep sense of frustration, indignity, and structural neglect, which must not be ignored. They also wish that first and foremost to express their utmost respect and appreciation for the selfless service and extraordinary professional commitment of the doctors and staff of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. In the face of constrained resources and immense professional pressures, you continue to uphold the sacred duty of care to the people of the northern region or northern Ghana and beyond. Your service is not only noble but indispensable to the nation's healthcare system. And three are also saying that, however, deeply concerned about the immediate and long-term implications of the suspension of critical services, particularly for the most vulnerable members of society who depend on the Tamale Teaching Hospital for urgent care. While your concerns are valid and your demands legitimate, we respectfully appeal to the leadership and general membership of the doctors to consider as a matter of urgency the possibility of rescinding this decision in the supreme interest of public health. We must also speak plainly. Either restoration of services is made contingent on an apology from the current Minister for Health, then regrettably we fear that more lives may be lost because before such a gesture is made. It is our considered view that the focus must remain on the immediate resumption of life-saving services while we in Parliament pursue appropriate institutional remedies and accountability measures through legitimate oversight channels. To this end, we assure the entire medical fraternity at Tamale Teaching Hospital that the Minority Caucus on Health stands firmly with you. We shall continue to amplify your concerns and ensure that the critical logistical, infrastructural, and administrative challenges you face receive the attention they deserve at the highest levels of public governance. Your welfare, dignity, and working conditions will form a central part of our oversight priorities in the coming months. Well, Parliament's Committee on Health is in the Upper West region. Rafiq Salam joins us with updates on that. Rafiq, what's the latest with the committee in the region?
The latest from the committee in the Upper West region is that they arrived at the hospital some 30 minutes ago, and then on their arrival, they first moved straight to some of the departments at the hospital. First was the emergency, unit of the hospital, where physician specialist Dr. Nabil took them through the challenges that they are facing at that particular emergency center. Some of the issues raised, there was the issue of staffing, when he stated that the nurses and also the doctors who are supposed to man that facility aren't enough. And then also they also talk about the issue of power fluctuation. He did make a statement that what happens at the hospital is that they have a reliable power supply, but it's really erratic. And so, and as a result of that, many of their equipment are now faulty as a result of the erratic nature of the power supply. Some of the other issues that they talk about are the inadequacy of some equipment, and which they would want the Parliamentary Select Committee to look at. One has to do with the CT scan, who they are saying that is faulty, and then they blame the nature of the committee move switch to the lab where they inspected some equipment there, and then one of the takeaways from that area has to do with the PCR machine, which they are saying that yes, there's only one in the region, and it would be good if it would be better if they have more, so that it could serve the whole of the region, because they talk about Upper West lying on the CSM belt, and so it is their belief that if they have more PCR machines, it will help fasten test of CSM in the region. So currently the committee are locked up in a meeting with the management of the hospital right now.
But Rafiq, does the committee tell you or the hospital what they're doing about the situation? I mean, the equipment that are weakened as a result of the power outages, or even supplying them with what they need at this moment?
For now, they said that they are only coming to see for themselves the challenges that they are facing, so that they could propose to the high authorities to alleviate the situation for them. For now, they can't do anything about the situation, but they really praise the hospital, commend the hospital for some initiatives to acquire some services, and even acquiring the services of some workers to work in the hospital. And for now, that is that they will take the matter further and bring some of this equipment that they need at the hospital.
So much. You keep an eye on that and update us on the very latest. That's Rafiq Salam in the Upper West region. And so let's go to the northern region now, where Martina Bugri is standing by with the latest from the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Martina, what's the latest now? Have the doctors returned to work? Martina, if you can hear me, have the doctors at the Tamale Teaching Hospital returned to work?
Not yet. They are still not at post. And I spoke with someone at the hospital like 20 minutes ago, and he says not yet. What they are saying is that yesterday they had discussions through deep into the evening, and they sort of reached some sort of compromise. He says that they believe by close of day something positive should come out. Now, when you go to the OPD, we don't have too many people there like yesterday. Most people are beginning to move to other hospitals like Tamale Regional Hospital and the Tamale West Hospital. And some few private hospitals around, people are beginning to move to these areas. I spoke to a husband of the lady who went there yesterday. They said they were there all through the day trying to get help, but they were referred to the Tamale Regional Hospital, and so they have moved to the Tamale Regional Hospital as we speak. So largely, nothing new has changed at the Tamale Teaching Hospital.
Right, Martina, thank you very much for that update from the Tamale Teaching Hospital. So currently we have on the line Chairman of the Health Committee, Dr. Nawani, joining us now. Doc, we're grateful for your time on our desk, and we know that you've been going around the country assessing health facilities. You are currently in the Upper West region. What can you tell us about your visit to some hospitals there?
Yeah, we are on a routine visit to the teaching hospitals in Ghana and then the regional hospitals. Parliament, with Health Committee, we've divided ourselves into teams, and Team 1 that I lead, we are touring Northern region, Northeast region, Upper East and Upper West regions. And currently we are at WA. That is our last stop. Hello?
I can hear you, sir.
Currently we are at WA, and that is our last stop. We've toured the hospital, we've gone to the ICU, we went to their diagnostic center, we went to their emergency and the wards, and we are currently meeting management of the hospital to discuss our findings and, of course, our suggestions. We want them to understand one thing, that the Health Committee of Parliament currently wants them to increase their performance and care, and also increase their revenue earnings. And when they are able to increase their IGF or the internal generated fund, we will assist them by talking to the Ministry of Finance to release this amount to them to carry out their maintenance and even staff motivation. This is the message that we're carrying forward, and that is the way that the Health Committee wants the hospitals to understand.
Right. But what has been the outcomes of your engagement with the doctors? I mean, especially, let's look at the issue at Tamale Teaching Hospital. I know you engaged with them yesterday, and we don't know what has become of that engagement. Up till now, the doctors are still not at post, and the patients have been left to feel the brunt of that. How are you engaging? What's coming out of it? What are the doctors saying?
Yes, yesterday we spoke with the doctors for almost 2 hours, and we understood their problems. We also understood their concerns. The doctors were demanding for logistics to work and also an apology from the health minister so that they can go back to work. We made them to understand that on the issue of the logistics, the minister is even thinking far ahead of, I would say, even the hospital, because he's working very hard to ensure that the Tamale Teaching Hospital gets some more logistics. And that is the reason why we are even on our rounds to identify such problems and bring it back to him for necessary action. On the issue of the apology, I asked, or I informed them that, yes, I will inform the minister about it, but we cannot ask medical staff or medical doctors be sitting down waiting for all the issues to be resolved before we go to work. I understand their problem, but they should be going to work, and then they can still demand for such apologies. Because when you don't do that, then it appears that you stop work and you ask the apologize before I go back. It's just like putting, I don't know, but say that you are forcing a person to apologize. And I believe that, honestly speaking, apology should not be forced out. It should be something that, after a reflection of both sides, what happened was unfortunate. A doctor was involved, a minister was involved. Let them have a reflection. I believe that after some time, the doctor will be ready to talk. After some time, the minister will be ready to talk. And I believe that we should be able to get some form of remorse, because nobody sets out to carry out an inspection at the hospital.
But Dr. Nawani.
And get the results.
But Dr. Nawani.
That came out. Mm-hmm. I'm being around, honestly. I'm also speaking to doctors. I'm speaking to nurses at various posts. So this is a normal and routine thing that the minister was doing. But somewhere along the line, if you look at the video very well, somewhere along the line, then there was that crossover that I'll continue to admit that it is a situation that I believe that the two people involved would not even like to remember or are proud of. I believe so. I believe they're not proud of it, and possibly a statement can come out later on, yes, on those issues.
But Dr. Nawani, till when will either of them come off their high horse when patients are being used as bargaining chip for an apology? How do we get either one to come to the table and resume work?
Exactly. That is what I was telling them. I appeal to them. Look, these are individuals who are having something that has a semblance of normal conversation, and then something happened. Are we going to say that, and this happened because somebody lost his life at the Tamale Teaching Hospital? Are we now going to sit down and continue to argue around this situation whilst we wait to see whether the second person, the third person, the fourth or fifth person might lose his life? I'm a medical practitioner of 32 years of experience. There have been instances where I would say that we have gone on strike, but it should be of a last resort. It should not be the first tool to use. It should not be. Sometimes we are used to give an ultimate, give some time ahead. That look, if at this time this thing did not happen, then we'll go on strike or something like that. This is what used to happen normally. Do you get it?
Right.
Yes.
So
but we don't just use it like that. It makes the strike action not as if it's that ordinary for medical professionals to say that we've laid down our tools.
well, so Dr. Nawani, right now, what is the posturing of the health minister? What has become of him, coming out to apologize? Even if he will not do so publicly, has he been engaging with the doctors behind the scenes?
Apologies are an individual decision. I will communicate to him about my meeting with the doctors, but as a health committee, we represent the people and we speak for the people. And currently, I believe the people are pleading with the doctors to come back to work. This is the most important thing. I know that Once all of these things happen, there's an ego fight. You think that you have been bruised, your ego has been bruised, and so you take your decisions. But they should have a sober reflection and come back to work.
How long do you think you can get the health minister to at least comply or get the doctors back to work?
When we spoke to the doctors yesterday, and we pleaded with them as a health committee, both majority and minority, we asked them to come back to work. They said they have to have a meeting first. That was the first thing they said. Mm-hmm. And secondly, they will contact their mother association of the Ghana Medical Association. They are going to contact the Ghana Medical Association and then get back to me. Yes, but I know that they need to understand the situation. They shouldn't wait for any apology before they go to work. The apology can come today, can come tomorrow. If the minister has that feeling, it should be an individual decision. But the effect of them not going to work, some of the effects are irreversible, like the loss of life. Mm.
Right. Hold on for me, sir. I have on the line Alexander Kwesi-Akwa, who is also on the minority bench on that committee. Mr. Akwa, I mean, you had your chairman there speaking on the situation in Tamale Teaching Hospital. Do you agree with him? What's happening with your side of the committee?
Yes, the minority on the health committee has also issued a statement calling on the doctors to resume work. We think that the patient care is the ultimate now. For us, we see some form of remorse from the minister. We have monitored his engagement. We have monitored his humble appeal and all that. So even though he may not have come out openly to say that he apologizes, we think that the kind of the rabble-rouser, means that he went to the Tamale Teaching Hospital has actually reduced. You monitor his engagement and you realize that he seen that he was wrong.
Right. So now neither of them seem to, or let me say, the doctors don't seem to, be pleased with what's happening, and they have still not reported, even with your appeal. What then happens next?
Well, our appeal just came out this morning, and so that was the general appeal. We want to join hands with our colleagues on the majority side and engage them and let them know that we may have been on their side. We understand their situation. We understand what they went through. We understand that their egos were bruised. We understand that emotionally they've been injured. But look, I mean, this is their call. They should call. We cannot continue being that emotional about what the minister did. The minister acted emotionally, and we condemned it. And so, if they have taken this decision, which is almost biting us to the core, we are just appealing that they should get back to work and take care of our patients.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Alexander Kwesi-Akwa, and also Dr. Dewan Nawani of the Parliament Select Committee on Health on their rounds in various sectors of the various regions on health facilities, as well as the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Right about now, we go back to our first story with that incident at Nyenehini, and we have on the line with us the ranking on the Defense and Interior Committee, Reverend John Intim-Fodjo. We're grateful for your time here on our desk, but I must presume that you have heard of the incident at Nyenehini. How do you react to this development?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mamisi. First and foremost, my condolences to the family of the deceased and sympathies to the injured in the incidents.
Right.
Yes, and I must say that the act of shooting a person in cold blood, blowing off their brain, and instantly killing them on the base that is not acceptable, is one that must be condemned, is one that affronts the law, and for which the military should have exercised restraint. Well, yes, it is an offense for a civilian to wear a military uniform. But in such instances, arrest is made, and when it is chanced upon by the military, you arrest the person and immediately hand them over to the police for them to apply the various processes of prosecution, and then the person faces the law. That is what is done in such instances. If the military is saying that for wherever you find a civilian wearing a military uniform, you have to blow their head off. It's unfortunate. That is not what must be done. But I must say that right at the outset, following the event, I must commend the leadership of the Member of Parliament of the area, the Honourable Sakuto, MP for Achuma Mponia, for the leadership played in ensuring calm is restored. I must also applaud the diligent steps immediately taken by Ashanti Regional Police Commander DCOP Taikujo, who visited the town and met the various groups, visited the family of the deceased and the injured, and has commenced investigations into the matter. He has also extended invitation to the commander of the military, the military command, and whose jurisdiction the incident occurred, to make available the soldiers who are suspected to have engaged in such acts to comply with investigations. And so far, I want to commend the regional police commander for the diligent steps taken.
Well, Reverend, looking at what has happened. Are you with me, Reverend?
Yes, I am.
Great. So looking at the situation that has happened, I mean, it's great that the police has taken some initiative as well as the MP, but what should have the military done by now? Nobody has had any reaction from them, knowing that these are their men that have, perpetrated this crime. What should they have done by now?
Immediately, what we expect the military to do is that, consistent with their standard operating procedures, when such incidents occur and they are apprised, the little information they are apprised with and they verify in conjunction with the Ghana Police Service, by now some press release, some statement ought to be released for them to acknowledge that indeed this incident has come to the investigations. The necessary investigations have commenced to get into the bottom of it. At this stage, that is expected to come from them. It's not the expectation that they will go into the details of the incident, but they need to be able to issue a statement, just as the Ghana Police Service have issued a statement apprising the public of the incident, the initial steps taken, and the steps they are taking for further investigations and prosecution. They are also expected to come up with a statement. I will appeal at this point also to the general public that in our engagement with security officers, we also need to afford them the needed cooperation and the needed respect that is due them, and not to get into altercations with them. In such instances, that I must applaud, I must caution. But given that particular incident that occurred, the soldiers ought to have exercised discretion, because they were just going through. That wasn't the assignment. They were just passing through, and they saw a funeral. A group of youth who had carried a corpse, supposedly being one of their friends, to the cemetery. They were going to bury the fellow in the cemetery. And so in a funeral, when you gather at a funeral, everybody knows what happens at funerals. People are sad, people may be grieving, people may not be in the best state of their minds because they are disturbed, they are grieving. And so that is not the time to want to approach the situation the way they did. They could have gone in a different approach, a better approach that would have still in the end, help them achieve the purpose of arresting the gentleman, the deceased gentleman who was in the military uniform, and handed him over to the police. They could have simply spoken to the group around that, no, this is an offense. We have identified he's not a soldier, he's in a military uniform. We want to hand him to the police for them to continue investigation, and the law takes its course. That's all we are trying to do. And no one will have pelted stones at them or got into any altercations with them. They fired, the reports we're hearing indicates that they fired over 18 warning shots. And for all the videos we have seen, we did not see any of the youth wielding guns or threatening the soldiers with gunshots or such weapons that are really life-threatening for them in defense of their lives to have reprised in the manner they did. I mean, it is very unlawful, it is unfortunate, and these excesses ought to be rooted out of our system. But it also dovetails into the general, thuggery atmosphere we see. If, security operatives are emboldened, to wield guns, over 50 of them, to storm the house of a member of parliament just for calling for investigations into a matter that is of serious public concern and interest, then every other security operatives, if they don't exercise restraint, may be emboldened, to use guns at the least provocation. So it is a dangerous trend which has to be kept from the top. Otherwise, it gets into our security officers, and then they might feel that kind of atmosphere, and they'll be charged that any junior officer, once you have a gun, when you approach a situation, the professionalism that is expected to be exercised, the restraint that is expected to be exercised will be lost. When they feel somebody out there, it is emboldening them. So it is an atmosphere that has characterized this jurisdiction the past 3 months, and must no longer continue.
Right.
Because this was the situation that you didn't have called for. The gentleman was not wielding any gun. You want him stripped naked.
So what is your committee doing to bring some form of open investigation into this, into the actions of the military, especially these incidents have happened a lot quite recently. Is it a breakdown of discipline in the military, or what is really causing this?
No, I will not accuse the general military for and say that there's a breakdown in discipline, but the general atmosphere of thuggery that military officers, junior officers, they are armed with guns, they have official instruction, go and storm houses of high-profile officials of opposing party. These things, they watch it, they see it on TV, it emboldens them. And so that culture has to be rooted out. If the top, right at the top, they begin to use rule of law in applying any matter of law, it will trickle down every security operative. For every security operative to know we operate in a culture of the rule of law. And as law enforcement officers and as security personnel, in the exercise of our mandate, it ought to be discharged with the absolute circumspection. It has to be done in a manner that is consistent with standard operating procedures, in a manner consistent with the rule of law. Because there's no law anywhere that says that if somebody wears military uniform, strip him naked wherever you find them, and if they refuse to do so, blow their heads off with a bullet. It's not done.
Will you bring my attention to what happened at your home? What has become of that investigation? I know that there were some letters sent by the security agencies to the Speaker of Parliament, as well as from your leadership to the Speaker of Parliament to look into this matter or hand you over to the security agencies for investigations. What became of that?
I am not a suspect to be handed over. I have not brought in any cocaine. I have not engaged in money laundering. So I cannot be a suspect, and I cannot be treated as such.
Are you at least helping them in their investigation?
My information is you storm somebody's house with gunmen when the person is a suspect in a high-profile matter, and we are not aware that I am a suspect in any high-profile crime. And so if they want collaboration, they know what to do. And now my understanding is that some processes and engagement had been done with the Speaker of Parliament. And at the time that is set, that engagement will happen, and then we'll take it from there.
Right. Thank you so much. Reverend John Ntimfo-Joy is ranking member on the Defence and Interior Committee in Parliament. Now, moving on, 15 years ago, fire ravaged the Kottoba Market in Cape Coast, displacing hundreds, exposing major safety flaws. Today, things are changing. The Ghana National Fire Service says it has rolled out a 24-hour surveillance at major markets, including Kottoba and Ebura. In our Breaking the Fire Cycle series, Central Regional Correspondent Erica Santi reports.
In April 2010, fire gutted several shops and temporary structures at the Kottoba Market, displacing hundreds of traders and resulting in losses worth millions of cedis. The fire, reportedly caused by electric fault, exposed the vulnerability of the market's infrastructure and the glaring absence of emergency preparedness. It wasn't just the lost goods, it was livelihood, legacies, and a sense of security. What followed was a prolonged legal battle between some traders and the Cape Coast Metropolitan Assembly. At the center of the legal tussle was the fate of the old market, to demolish or not. The Cape Coast High Court, presided over by His Lordship Justice Kwesi Dapa, finally ruled in favor of a demolition, clearing the path for the construction of an ultramodern facility. The project was one of the flagship initiatives championed by the late President John Evans Fifi Atta Mills. Today, the Kottoba Market stands transformed. Fire hydrants, emergency exits, organized stalls, and a better wiring system. ACFO Mary Atiga Mensah have since January 2025 introduced a 24-hour surveillance at key markets, including the Kottoba and Abra markets.
This initiative was prompted us when the Quantamanto fire, on the 2nd January fire outbreak. So I went to a shop and there was an intel that the following city will be Tema. It was there that when I came to the office and I called my main management and we sat down to strategize how to go about it so that we will now be found wanting.
This, according to the regional commander, is to restore trust, protect lives, and learn from the flames of the past. The commander expressed satisfaction at the level of cooperation when a team visited the Abra and the Kottoba markets.
So we strategize in a way that we intensify market fire education day and night. The personnel normally goes in the morning and close at 6, and in the evening we send the tender to the market with personnel going around doing inspection so that in case they see something that is obvious, they may report it. And we intensify fire education in the day and night, even in churches, because the same people in the market, they go to church, mosques, entertainment places. Well, my assurance to Cape Coast or the central region is that we are here to help them, so they should also help us. Whatever we are doing, they should collaborate with us so that our properties will be safe and the human beings, we the people will be safe, our properties too will be safe.
Most of the traders have welcomed the change with open arms.
Because market was showing you baby no. It's a was the people to them sa. About how I didn't pay. Most motanaha, and so bandama maso, me yamisham. It's a young pede, dembesi, it's yesterday. Some
of the traders are calling for support for the initiative.
But so I probably bit na so a bit a politician. He didn't sit na. What would you man kasa? Aye, no, I remember him most more on our board about. As I was feeling, yeah, from coaching. Baby, what would you man?
So the fire tender behind me has become a tower of hope through which most of the market women say they draw inspiration from. Reason being, once it is stationed here, their properties are secured.
Well, some students at the Gimpa Faculty of Law are calling for an amendment to the 1992 Constitution to take away the executive arm of government's power to appoint the Chief Justice. Their call follows President John Mahama's suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu after 3 petitions were submitted alleging misconduct and incompetence. The students argue that public trust in the judiciary will continue to diminish if such powers remain unchecked.
The Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu, has been in the news lately. She was suspended by the president after a prima facie case against her, following 3 petitions alleging misconduct and incompetence. Well, I am not a lawyer. Neither do I have in-depth knowledge of the law, but I am here with some aspiring law students to gauge their opinion on what they think about the legality surrounding her suspension and also whether or not they think due process was followed in a suspension. Hello, ladies. So, I just want to get your initial reaction. What was your initial reaction when you heard that the CJ had been suspended? Hannah?
Personally, I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy. But the law is the law. Yeah, so that was my initial reaction.
So there's been rumors going around if she will be removed or not. Then finally on Tuesday, 22nd April, the president announced that she has been suspended. What was your initial reaction?
Yeah, I was shocked about it because she's someone I look up to, because if you look at the hierarchy in Ghana, and she being a female as well and occupying such position, I was a bit shocked that, okay, what might have gone wrong? So let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what will unfold. Yeah.
So there were also arguments that due process has not been followed following a removal, even though the presidency released a statement detailing how they followed Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution following her suspension. From your own perspective, do you think that due process was followed in her removal or suspension? Phoebe?
So I think due process was followed actually, because when you look at Article 146, Clause 10 of the Constitution, it does grant the president the mandate to be able to issue that suspension, which was actually the basis for which he issued the suspension. So due process has been followed. I think even from the very beginning, yes, due process has been followed. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not an aspiring lawyer, though. I'm reading public administration, so I read from the public servant perspective. So, per public servant conduct, what is expected of every public servant? You have certain integrity and morals you need to uphold. So, to me, if they say that those morals and integrity hasn't been met, or her conduct is contrary to what the Constitution says, then I think that the due process was being followed, to me. Yeah.
The NPP, yesterday they had a conference, and the party organizer says that they are going to protest the removal of the CJ. At what point do you think
Interesting views from students of the Gimpa Law Faculty, and right about now we'll take a break. We'll return with more.
Welcome back to Business on NewsDesk. My name is Winston Taki, and now to our first business story. Director of Salmon Partners and financial consultant Dr. Richmond Echiahene has called on the government to prioritize private sector investment as a means of creating sustainable jobs in the country. He emphasized the need to privatize some state-owned enterprises making losses. Dr. Echiahene made these remarks at the Agribright Partners Convergence Conference organized by the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International in Accra.
The Accra Marriott Hotel was barely months old when the COVID-19 pandemic.
The 2025 Agam Bright Partners Convergence Conference was held under the theme, The Future of Ghana's Economy, Strategies for Business Growth and Resilience. Keynote speaker, Director of Salmon Partners and a financial consultant, Dr. Richmond Etuahene, emphasized the need for the government to create an enabling environment that fosters private sector growth and economic development.
Speaking about private sector, it is the engine of growth. Who said it's in Ghana, it's not an engine of growth. It is rather destroying businesses. And when you destroy business, you're destroying employment and job creation. Because state, no country, the state creates jobs. It is the private sector that creates good enabling jobs. Unfortunately, the public sector has taken on. That is why you see the wage. We have 73 billion out of a budget of 226 billion going for compensation and public salaries and public wages. Which country? 7.1% of the GDP. I have never seen any country like that because we think we should keep the public sector. If I have my own way, I'll be privatizing some of the public sector to reduce it. Look at cocoa board. You live in a debt of just selling cocoa. You create such a massive debt and you go away with it. Look at electricity. Your job is to manage electricity. Look at the debt. And the country is so huge with debt overhang. And until we get all these things sorted out, we are not supporting the private sector. And I can challenge anybody with the empirical evidence that the private sector are suffering in this jurisdiction.
National Treasurer of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International, Kwabena Nifa Anin, urged business leaders to be impact-driven while upholding Christian values in their operations.
The topic was chosen in view of the times that we find ourselves. These are difficult times. How do we position ourselves, our businesses, our enterprises, and our various income streams to navigate through this myriad of complex and unstable macroeconomic environment globally and also nationally? Because we believe that as business leaders, we have an overarching responsibility to use our resources, our influence, to make a positive impact in the communities we serve in. That's why we are deeply committed to supporting initiatives that promote Christian values, integrity, and compassion.
The Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International, in collaboration with the Agam Bright Partnership Fund, also used the occasion to mobilize resources from its members to support the schools and colleges project aimed at empowering the youth through education while addressing challenges such as addiction, indiscipline, and juvenile delinquency. That's all for business. My name is Winston Taki. Back to my music.
And Winston, that's all we have for our desk today. Thanks for joining us. There's more news on myjoyonline.com.